And Lewis is here, and we are live, folks. That's the beauty of a live show. Welcome to Strange Journeys. On our last show, we began a strange journey into holy sanctuaries, and tonight we go back to church. Into the unknown, into the unseen, the unexplainable, and the unbelievable. Join our strange journeys. Are you ready? Well, are you? Are you, huh? Are you? Welcome again to Strange Journeys. Thank you, watchers, for being here. And for the first time in a long time, we have Andrea Bateas with the Grave Hunters Society is back with us. And I saw your face lighting up through that intro. Have you not seen it?
I have missed it. Yeah, life has been really busy, so I haven't been able to keep up with the shows or anything. It's killing me. But I have been listening to them.
Okay,
I've been
cool.
listening to them on Pandora, so I'm not watching them, but I get to listen to them.
That's cool.
So they're
That's
enjoyable.
awesome. And of course, we have Lewis O. Powell the Fourth. I sound like a wrestling announcer now. And Lewis, you can yeah, there you go. Just put a one of those mask over your head, like a do-rag with the holes in the eyes, like Zorro. There you go. No, okay. Never mind.
I don't wrestle at all.
I used to when I was a kid and watched wrestling, the local stuff. It was before it got to be the big WWE and all the Fs and all that kind of stuff.
Oh wow.
And about 8 or 9 years ago, I got to meet my childhood wrestling star. You know, Cowboy Bob Kelly. You know, and I got to meet him before he died. He was speaking at a benefit that I was playing at. And so I got to meet the local legend, Cowboy Bob Kelly. It was so cool. I got pictures and got videos of him telling story and pictures of him telling stories. It was great. But Lewis, you can edit under your name. StreamYard has a new thing where you see where we've got under Andrew's, under my name.
Yes.
You can go to your little window down there and click the little three dots.
Oh, okay.
And you can add a title under there and put Southern Spirit Guide or Troup County Historical Society, whatever you want. You know. And so for me and Tim, yeah, look at there you go. Awesome. Yeah, let's represent. Which I don't Andrea showed me before we came. Andrea's representing the Frog Man.
Oh,
I went to the festival 2 weeks ago. It was great. It was so much fun. It was the first festival for Frogman in Ohio. So
that's awesome. We talked about the Loveland Frogman in Strange States, Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad you got to go. Before we get started, remember we provide these shows first and foremost for you, the watchers, for your entertainment. We are not by any means and do not claim to be scholars and experts in any of the topics that we cover. We are simply enthusiasts and storytellers who have fun with these topics while doing our best to respect individual beliefs. And last show and this show, we're really focusing on that respect side of it because we don't want to disrespect any religion, obviously. And so we're just telling stories. We're not telling any beliefs that may be behind that, because it's my firm belief and my position that every man, woman has to come to their own decision as far as their faith. And so we're going to respect everyone's belief systems. And please remember that we are live. We've already mentioned that. Lewis running back in as the show went live. That's, you don't know how many times. If you watched our season 1 goofs and gaffs and strange stuff, had that one where Tommy Pratt, we went live and he's sitting there smoking a cigarette.
That was awesome. I love that so much.
Yeah.
Gone.
And the funny thing, yeah, he threw it out and just acted like nothing happened. It was hilarious, and then everybody started laughing at him, so he had to laugh. But I mean, he had such a serious look on his face. But all right, what you see is what you get, because we are live. And remember, you can support this show through Patreon, through Cash App, through Venmo, PayPal, whichever one there. Patreon is a monthly commitment, and we appreciate our patrons that are on there. You guys are helping us keep this thing going. But if you're not into the monthly commitment, we dig that, and we appreciate it, can understand and respect that. That's why we have the PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App. And you're just like, hey, I'm digging what these guys are doing, and I want to drop them a $20 or something, and you can do that on Cash App or these others. And we would appreciate all the help and support that you give us. And if you're watching, well, let me before I share YouTube, we are now on Spotify, Stitcher, Pandora, and iHeartRadio. So, because of those platforms, we're going to be doing things a little bit different now that I know we're going onto these platforms. Andrea, you said that you had been listening, and several of these do not do the video portion of it, and that's fine. So we're going to back off a little bit on the pictures. Y'all know historically, ever since this show started, whatever the subject was, I tried to have plenty of pictures to back it up. But since we have so many different platforms now that don't support that, we're going to back off on the pictures a little bit. And if we do have a picture, then we'll try to remember to be a little more descriptive in it. And like the video we're going to watch tonight from Andrea, if before we play it, then you can describe it as we go through it. So just remember that. So wherever you're listening or watching at, we appreciate it, whether it's through Google. Oh, I didn't mention Google Podcast. Yeah, Google Podcast, iHeart, Stitcher, Pandora, iHeartRadio. Did I leave out Spotify that time? There's so many of them. And I think I didn't tell y'all. I think I may have told you in our messenger group, but I got this. Well, we we've been on YouTube exclusively for over a year. We tried Facebook for a while, which that's how we had to start. And then we went on Twitch for a while, and Twitch was glitching and wasn't jiving well with the service we use. And so we had to cut out Twitch. And then, like I said, a while back, I just went exclusively on YouTube, and our views went up, and things things started going better on the whole for the show. And I've used Spotify to listen to the podcast that I enjoy. And when I'm listening to music, well, I mean, I'm one of those. It's old school, and if I pay for music, I'm gonna buy a CD, an album, a whole thing. If I'm just listening to the radio, I'll sit there through ads. I'm not going to pay 10 or 15 bucks a month just to listen to music every now and then, because mostly on my drive to work, I listen to podcasts. But anyway, I heard an ad on there for Anchor podcasting platform that they were affiliated with Spotify. And I was like, okay, cool. That might be something to look into down the road. And then one of my favorite YouTube shows started showing up on Spotify. I'm like, holy cow. And I went to it expecting audio only, but they had their video up there. And I'm like, oh, cool. And so I subscribed to them and started watching and listening to them on Spotify. And then I decided, well, if they're doing video now, I'll just see if I can upload. So I went into Anchor, signed up under Strange Journeys, and started uploading shows. And then I found out that through that, I could go to all these different platforms. So, I mean, and
Wow.
it's a simple process. So I just started clicking on them and adding them, So
That's awesome.
that's why we're on these different platforms now. And right as I did that, I had a sales rep from iHeartRadio come in to see me at work, and we're talking about the stuff that she came there to talk to me about. Obviously, she's wanting us to do advertising, and that's my niche at work. That's part of what I do. And so we were talking about all that, and then it one thing led to another, and we sat there talking about the show, Strange Journeys, and some of the weird stuff we've talked about. And she's like, I love that kind of stuff. I love listening to those kind of podcasts. And so I said, well, I'm still getting everything set up for all these other platforms. So a few days later, I got it set up for iHeart. So I sent her an email. I was like, oh, we're on iHeart now. Well, she came to see me again yesterday. And she's like, I've been listening to your podcast and I love it. She said, I told everybody in our office about your podcast. And I think it's just because I'm local, that she's so excited about it because she's a local iHeart rep and she knows somebody that's doing a podcast on iHeart now. So it was all pretty cool. But the weird thing was last week, Spotify bought out, took over somehow Anchor, my podcast platform. And so I went to log into it like I always do, which you know how it is when you go to these websites. Sometimes they'll ask you do you want to log in with Google? And that's how I signed up for Anchor. I just clicked a little button, sign in with Google and under my Strange Journeys account, and boom, went right in, started uploading shows and got 30 or 40 on there now, something like that. And then when Spotify took over Anchor, I go in there and I click sign in with Google. I mean, they put a little banner up, it's now Spotify for podcast. Click sign in with Google, and it brought up the name of the show, which I added the encounters, Strange Journeys encounters, because of all these different platforms. And then it showed which I've got to find time to change our logo up a little bit so it'll work on these places. I had to use their artwork basically and set up our own little logo because ours was too big. So I've got to make a thumbnail of our logo so it'll fit on there. But anyway, I may just do the eyes like it's up in the left top right corner there. But anyway, that's all there was though on my dashboard. No episodes. A box in the middle said upload your first episode. And I'm like, excuse me? I've already got tons of stuff on here. What's going on? And so I sat in the message box for a couple of hours. Lynn was over there getting frustrated with me because I was getting frustrated with the bot because I kept saying human. I don't understand. I don't understand your request. Human, I don't understand your request. And so anyway, I shut it down, got back up the next morning, went to log in again, same thing, nothing there. And I'm like, oh my God, don't tell me that I've lost, I mean, I've still got the episodes. Don't worry about that, folks. We still got everything. But all the work, the hours that I put in uploading all these episodes. And so I logged back out, went through all their help articles, everything, And so finally I just said, I'm just going to sign in. Forget clicking the box, sign in with Google. I just typed in Tom at Strange Journeys Live and my normal password that I use for Strange Journeys. And guess what? Everything popped up. Everything. The same stinking password. I started to say something I shouldn't say, but the same exact password. Go figure. But it's all still there. I've uploaded a couple more since then, and that was my drama with techie stuff. And also we mentioned it. Tim and I talked about it last show. We do have a new merch site. This one blew me away because I got an email from a sales rep for this company called Fourth Wall, and it says you've been invited. And so, when I don't know how you guys are, but I know with me, when I get something like that, I go behind it and research it. I check into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to their website and I didn't click on anything in the email. So I went into the website, and this merch site is only for YouTubers who have 1,000 subscribers or more.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Or we don't have 1,000 subscribers. Or you get a specific invitation.
Neat.
Now, how cool is that? So I had my invitation sitting in my mailbox, and so I'm like, well, holy cow. Let's do it. Sure. We are up. We're like 72 or more subscribers on YouTube, and we thank you guys. I hope you're watching. But, I was just, I can't say honored, but I guess they saw that we had been on YouTube for a while, and so they extended an invitation to be a part of this merch site. And I've been wanting to change merch sites for a while because the original one I was using is for like the way they set up is just for one-offs. You make this t-shirt, promote it, sell it, and I was adding tons of stuff on there and using it for what it really wasn't used for. But Teespring, which is now Spring, it's a great service for like single things. But what I couldn't do on there was make collections, because y'all know that I've got the I Believe series. I believe in fairies, I believe in aliens, I believe in Bigfoot, all that. I couldn't group those together over there, but on Fourth Wall I can. I couldn't add anybody to help me out, but guess what? Fourth Wall allows me to add Andrea and Dagny on there, and Andrea's already designed some t-shirts. Let me find it here. I had it right here. Where'd it go? Yep. I'll show it to you real quick. I should have already had this brought up because I had planned on talking about it with you guys. So I'm going to do this real quick, and I'm forgetting how to do it. Share screen. Window. Where'd it go?
It was a real fun t-shirt to make. That has been an itch on me. I'm like, I have this idea. I've got to make this.
Yeah,
and I know you said go ahead, and I finally got a chance.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, wow.
Check out the new drop. And I haven't got everything on there yet, but I just put up some. I've always loved this Lay of the Land logo, so I used it. I got our I Believe cap and everything, but here's the ones that Andrea designed for me, and see, she has full access now. She can go in there, and
oh, wow.
she does another thing like this.
It's a knockoff of the Stranger Things.
Yeah,
like the logo from season 1. And I'm like, oh, I love that idea. We got to roll with this,
and if you look close, I think that's embroidery.
Oh,
I think that's what.
nice.
Then some of them are, but anyway, there's just all kind of stuff. We've started our I Believe series.
I like the mug.
Which one?
That one. I did the
Oh,
logo.
yeah.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's cool. I mean, and so we've got the hoodies and the shirts, some stickers. I mean, this has always been one of my favorites. I like Bigfoot and I cannot lie. So, but anyway, folks, that's let me what I'm going to do here. Well, we've shared it in the Strange Friends group, so you can go there and get the link. The other technical problem I'm having is that I own the website or the web domain strange stuff.live, and that was connected to our old merch site, and so I'm trying to get it moved over to our new merch site, and I'm having some issues, and I really haven't had time to find who to talk to correct that, because I mean, y'all know I work 5 days a week, but then on the weekends I stay with my mom and take care of her. So weekends is usually when I deal with all this, and so I try in between helping her, but sometimes I just can't. But anyway, sorry about all that. Appreciate y'all hanging with us. If you're watching on YouTube, and if you're watching right now, you probably are watching on YouTube, because that's the only place it's streaming right now. That's it. It'll be later this evening or in the morning when I upload it to the other platforms. So if you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do.
Click that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel.
I love that. I love that. That's so cute.
Well, that's what, 3 years old now, so he's much bigger. I got to get him to do a new one. There's a excuse me, there's a local grocery store chain down here. No, sorry, it wasn't a grocery store chain. It was a flooring and tile store, and their motto was open 8 to 8, so don't be late. Well, he started out getting his little 4-year-old girl, his daughter, to say open 8 to 8, so don't be late. And I mean, everybody down here watched the little girl grow up, because she's a grown woman now. But she was famous for that down here, open 8 to 8, so don't be late. And so now they have to change it. She's running the business for them now. So, well, let's get into the show. In our previous show, Holy Ghost ? Little G ? We focused on Christian churches, and we're going to do some of those again tonight, but we'll be returning to some of those holy places this evening, but we're going to highlight some synagogues and mosques as well that have some high strangeness in them. And Andrea and Lewis both have some stories. Andrea's got a video we're going to get to in a little bit, but first we're going to look at a couple of synagogues. In Enfield, Middlesex, UK, in 2009, the rabbi at Enfield and Winchmore Hill Synagogue moved into the accommodation attached to the synagogue when he found he had been joined by an unseen force capable of opening windows as well as knocking at doors and making other inexplicable noises. Corroboration for the presence of a spirit has come from members of the synagogue's congregation who say they have noticed the spectral activity before. The ghost was believed to be that of the rabbi who founded the synagogue and died 40 years ago. Now, the issue of all these supernatural paranormal things happening was referred to the Rabbinical Center of Europe, and then all the way to Chief Rabbi of Israel, Shlomo Amar. Now, he suggested that prayer should be offered for both the house and the dead rabbi's soul. According to the man initially called in to help the haunted rabbi, Diane Raskin, a rabbi in the United States, offered practical advice based on his own experience. A man had contacted him about a haunting in an office, and the rabbi told him, and this is Jewish law, that no chimney, window, or door should be completely sealed off so spirits are allowed to move in and out. I'd never heard that, but it makes sense, I guess. You know,
It's like that old-fashioned old superstition. When somebody passed away, they would go and open up the windows so the soul could leave. They'd cover a mirror so it wouldn't get trapped. So maybe it's from something like that.
Well, this particular man discovered that there was a sealed window, and once he opened it up, the problem went away. However, a spokesman for the Enfield Synagogue now says that the haunting might have simply been a case of an old story being blown up out of proportion. According to the chairman of the board of the synagogue, Alan Sless, about 30 years ago, a visiting psychic claimed to have sensed spirits in the house. In addition, another rabbi of the synagogue claimed to have felt in the house the spirits of prominent departed synagogue members and that of the deceased founding minister, Reverend Lewin. And that comes from the Shady Old Lady's Guide to London website. I thought that was a cool website, the Shady Old Lady. So, yeah, we talked about, we have a comment already. UFO Bigfoot, howdy, y'all. Hey, it's another YouTube channel checking in with us. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you being here. I hope you enjoy the stories of some haunted synagogues, and maybe you missed my ramblings at the beginning of the show. I was going over some technical stuff, background stuff, but now we're into the good stuff. All right. The next haunted synagogue is in Israel. And I've asked Lewis if he would share this story.
All right. In 1921, a member of the illustrious Abuqaira family of Morocco visited Israel. It was his first trip there, and Rabbi Yisrael Abuqaira was especially excited about visiting the mystical city of Safed. Known as the Baba Sali, the young and 30-year-old prince of Morocco traveled with a personal attendant. When he reached the city, well-wishers, rabbis, and children came to greet him. After settling down, he went to officially meet with the rabbis of the town, especially the saintly Rabbi Eliezer Shlomo El-Fandari. We can imagine how Baba Sali reacted to the report of the haunted Ari Sephardi synagogue. Impossible, he uttered. Demons in control of the holy synagogue in which the saintly Ari Zal prayed? Never.
Never.
But the facts were real. Anyone who entered there did not leave alive. After a few mysterious deaths of this type, the beadle of the synagogue had locked and bolted it closed indefinitely.
Wow.
Rav Yisrael Abuqaira, fully aware of the danger which awaited anyone who dared to enter the synagogue, sent his personal aide straight away to the gatekeeper's house to implore him to open it for him. In the meantime, Rabbi Yisrael walked down to the Ari Mikveh, the ritual immersion pool, and immersed himself in the cold water of the pool. The gatekeeper flatly refused the aide's request. Don't you know, he told the young man sternly, how many corpses lie inside? It is impossible to remove them.
Wow.
With a sad look in his eyes, he concluded, I cannot give the key to you or to anyone else. I will not be party to a certain death. The Baba Sali's personal attendant persisted. My Rebbe, the holy rabbi endanger his life. Oh, the holy rabbi Yisrael Abuqaira is not an ordinary sightseer, nor is he foolish to endanger his life without due reason. Surely he has a special mission to accomplish here at Safed by redeeming the holy synagogue from the grip of these demons. It is your duty to open the shul. Don't fear, my Rebbe's blessing shall be upon you. Slowly, the beadle acquiesced to Baba Salih's request. A time was set to meet in the courtyard of the synagogue an hour later that very afternoon. Standing by the huge doorway to the synagogue, the gatekeeper again reiterated his reluctance to open the door. Therefore, he said with a heavy, nervous tone in his voice, I must ask you to please tie this rope around your waist. If, heaven forbid, you do not come out, I shall be able to pull it. It is unnecessary, my dear friend, said Baba Salih. Fear not. In another few minutes, you will be inside with me, alive and well. The gatekeeper unlocked the outer door with a long bronze key and pushed the door open. It squeaked loudly on its hinges. The Baba Salih took the key to the inner door some 15 feet inside. As he stepped in, he turned to his side. Hold on to my coat and don't let go, he whispered, and don't say a word.
Mm.
The gatekeeper watched them with great expectation. The Moroccan Jew wore his turban and long Sephardic coat, which nearly touched the ground. His aide was obviously nervous and bent down as he followed his master inside. They stopped at the inner door long enough for Rabbi Abukatsara to unlock and open it. Outside, the sun was about to set, and a gray twilight mist darkened the sky. Baba Salih boldly stepped into the main synagogue. Suddenly, a strange sight lay before them. The synagogue blazed full of light. It was so uncanny that the aide felt his heart pounding louder than the silence.
Mm.
Slowly, the two tiptoed across the hall to the Holy Ark at the front of the synagogue. Rabbi Yisrael Abukatsara opened the Ark, took out the Torah scroll, and carried it to the Bema. The young aide followed him, holding tightly to his master's robe. There he opened the Torah scroll and read from it out loud. His voice danced across the hall in all directions, mingling with the strange rays of light that filled the room. When he finished, the Baba Salih closed the Torah scroll and returned it to its place in the Holy Ark. Only then did he sit down. You may release your hold on my garment now, he said. The danger is over. In his melodious voice, the Prince of Morocco began to chant the words of prayer recited before the afternoon service. The aide went and brought the gatekeeper, who waited by the inner door until after the Baba Salih concluded the afternoon service. Please forgive me, begged the old man. I didn't believe that. It is all right. You did just as any sensible person should do. The gatekeeper kissed Baba Salih's hand in respect. Baba Salih left the personal attendant. At last, in the merit of the holy Rabbi Yisrael Abukatsara, the Are Sephardi synagogue was freed from the specter of death and was once again open to all.
Wow.
Whoa.
And that's from the Jewish Mag website telling that story. You know what it reminded me of is in the Old Testament text where the priest would go into the Holy of Holies and have a rope tied around his ankle, because if he screwed up, his body would plop and they would have to drag him out. But it's amazing. I mean, we can't really test the veracity of this story, but it's one they believe in, that anybody that walked in there died. They locked and bolted barred the doors so no one would go in and die anymore. He said, I don't even know how many corpses are in there, you know.
It
And
had to
this
be such a scary sight, walking in.
Yeah.
right, with bodies laying around everywhere.
Yeah.
And this what's his I can't pronounce his name. Yisrael Abukatsara.
Yisrael Abukatsara.
Yeah. Goes in and it sounds like the Ark of the Covenant may have been there at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And he pulls out the Torah and reads, and and clears the room of whatever is killing everybody, you know. And so it's just a cool story that I ran across and wanted Lewis to share with you. What are your guys' thoughts?
They're brave.
Yes.
They're brave, because I would be like, you can go in by yourself, sir. But let me know when it's, when the coast is clear, I'll come in. But
Yeah.
you know, in the Jewish culture, they really strongly believe in these things, and
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense. I mean, if they said it's there, I don't see a reason not to believe them.
True.
I
True.
don't see a reason, if this is, I mean, there's just too many other stories that have been documented that, I mean, even with like, let's just get into like the Dybbuk box and things like that,
Yeah.
but that have been documented from their culture, and it's true. So why, I mean,
Well, the
it's gotta,
Dybbuk box was made popular on Supernatural, but I mean, I've heard that it was part of Jewish culture, but I haven't confirmed that. But then I heard supposedly that the man that built it came out and say he built it and it's not a Jewish thing. So I don't know.
you can get on eBay, I think, and buy like Dybbuk box you want. So
buy you a Dybbuk box.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean I've heard both things about that, but I do remember the Supernatural episode with the Dybbuk box, and so wasn't that where in the office the guy was disintegrated or something, and they had to come into the synagogue
I don't know. I'm a huge
anyway, it's
Supernatural fan, and I don't remember that one. I'll have to rewatch.
Well,
It won't be a problem.
No, it won't be a problem to rewatch 15 seasons. Yeah, so I've gone. I'm sorry, this is a rabbit trail. I've started over X-Files. I haven't seen that in years, so I'm rewatching that now. I'm into the second season already. So
Some of those are good.
Oh yeah, I love it. Yeah. Scully just came back to work after she got abducted. So anyway, I'm enjoying that, and I've got us off track here. I want to go to before we get to mosque, and I want to save Andrea's video to last because guys, you got to hang on for this video. It is freaking wild. So, Andrea, what were you telling me before the show about the church in Cincinnati?
So it's not a synagogue. I missed that show. But in Cincinnati, we have the Sedumsville Rectory. And it was one of 4 buildings that belonged to Our Lady of Perpetual Help. And they started in 1878. They built this building, the rectory, in 1891. But kind of the community went downhill because of flooding and just a series of events. So by 1989, it was completely dissolved and abandoned, which allowed it to sit there, open to anybody and to decay for years. And that's kind of when things really started hitting the fan, because the area was not that great of an area. So there was a lot of crime and a lot of gangs, and dogfighting was a big thing, especially in Cincinnati during that time. So a lot of gang members, drug users would hang out there, and they fought dogs. They had fights in the basement of the rectory. And so with all of, all the drugs, all the violence that took place there, the place is extremely heavy. And there has been, it was on Ghost Adventures early on, way early on, when they were still watchable, in my opinion. But
he who
it
must
was on,
not be named.
John Zaffis and the Haunted Collector, and I really loved that episode of it, because they always go into the history of the buildings and where they go in the area, so they really know their stuff going in. And then the owners were also featured on My Ghost Story. So the big deal, the reason why the owners started reaching out is because they bought this rectory because they were hoping to turn it into their home. And that's when things started to get really weird. They were seeing dark shadows. They were smelling sulfur. They were hearing dogs barking, growling, menacing growling.
Wow.
They were having nightmares. They were being scratched. They were being pushed. They were having, I mean, it was, I don't think a ghost would do this. It was definitely something more on the darker side, the
Dark side, yeah.
demonic side. And so John Zaffis and his team went in there, and I think they got to go in first before the Ghost Adventurers did. And they went down into the basement and they found a breaking stick. So it's a stick that is used to kind of beat the dogs that are fighting or to break open their mouths when they lock. It's a horrible thing.
Wow.
And they felt like that was kind of one of the catalysts that was holding that energy down there for the dogs. They also brought a dog on to see how the dog would behave. The dog would not even go into the basement.
Wow.
The dog would not have anything to do with it. And I personally, with my team, I brought my dog with me. I have a Rottweiler, and she definitely knows before we even do if something is up. Yeah, she's a great, she's like a canary in a cave kind of deal. But so after that show, things were getting kind of worse for them. They were starting to experience some marital problems that were becoming unsafe. And they had been married for years before this. So this was highly unlike this couple to experience this. And so they opened it up for investigations and allowed other people. And that's when the Ghost Adventurers got involved. And when they got involved, they were like, this is not normal. This is bad. He actually ended up having the owner, the male owner, the husband, ended up having a kind of a spell while there. And they had to pull him out of that rectory during that investigation to get him to just separate himself and to calm down. So they brought in Father Jack Ashcroft in hopes that maybe he would perform an exorcism on the house and just kind of do a total cleanse. He wouldn't have anything to do with it.
Wow.
He said, no, I don't think there's anything wrong. I'm not really sure. Like, I feel like there needs, and for the Catholic Church to perform an exorcism, they do not just go and do it willy-nilly. There has to be certain things that fall on a list for them to do. And I'm assuming maybe some things weren't quite there yet. Unfortunately, the house was up still for investigations. I went and checked it out because I was like, that would be kind of a interesting place to maybe check out. We're feeling gutsy. It's closed. It's closed because they finally did separate. And they are not, I don't even think it's up for sale. I think they are it's just closed and it's being left abandoned. So too many people, other ghost hunting teams have gone there. They have absolutely experienced things in the office where the priest was. They say there's a dark shadow and an entity. They can smell like a sulfur smell coming upstairs and moving into rooms. They can follow it. So, I mean, there is so much documentation on this rectory that I think that there was definitely something heavy there. And I wish luck to anybody who does eventually move in. It definitely needs cleansed before they move in.
Hey, I mean, send PSEI in there. They work with a priest.
They do. Al moved to California, but they're still going on.
PSEI East.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I think that's so
cool.
you've grown.
Yeah. So they work with priests and psychic medium,
They do. Their psychic medium is on spot. It is really interesting. He doesn't go on the investigations. He doesn't have to.
Right. Exactly. he knows what's going on without being there. And he's Al has spoken so highly of him.
Yeah.
Or we might get Elizabeth Parker to do a reading.
Yeah.
If you take your team in there, just contact Elizabeth Parker and say, "Hey, I'm going into this place. What do you?
Let us know what you think before we jump in there." Right, I don't know because of how things have continued on for it. I think for me personally, that's a no touchy zone. If somebody was asking for help, obviously we would be there. But I'm not going to crawl through a building just for fun that has definite demonic activity. No thanks. I'll go to the mall.
All right. While we're on churches, Lewis, you had some church stories, didn't you?
Yes.
Well, let's say Christian churches. We'll get to a couple of mosque stories here in a minute. Go ahead.
the first story is a story that I actually experienced, and this was back in my days working up in Cherokee, North Carolina. And my first year up there, I started hearing these stories of a haunted church not far away in Great Smoky Mountains National Park. So, of course, I started asking around, and one night got up the guts to actually go visit. And I had four other guys with me. And so we pile in the car. It's probably about 3 a.m. So we drive into Great Smoky Mountains National Park, and we find this little church, which is a Cunliffe Baptist church. This is a church whose congregation dates to the 1830s, and
Wow.
the building itself is dates to about 1912. But once the federal government started buying this land for the national park, of course, the church members moved away and the church kind of dissolved, but the park has preserved the building itself, and it's just standing there open at all hours. So
Huh.
we decided to go visit. So we found the driveway where this church is located. We drive down the driveway, and we couldn't actually see the church. There is no electricity hooked up to the church,
Wow.
and it's back off in the trees. And so we really couldn't see anything until someone finally shone their flashlight up, and we were able to see the building. So we get out of the car and we started walking up the path to the church, and the path passed through this area where they would hold outdoor services. And there were benches set up there, and there was a little mound where the preacher would stand.
Yeah.
And so the path led right over the mound. So as each of us stepped up on the mound, every single one of us remarked, you could feel this kind of energy.
Wow.
So we proceeded on into the church, and we got inside and we're looking around, and one of the guys with the group is a guy from Arkansas. And this guy is one of these people who has a southern accent that's so strong, he seems to stretch these one syllable words into two or more syllables. And now, because this is a fairly vulgarity free show, I will replace the word that he used with the word poop. So we're looking around, and this guy says very loudly, "Well, look at all this bat poop." And I turned to him and I said, "Hey, this is a church. Mind your language." "What? I'm just talking about bat poop." And I said, I can't imagine that the spirits here like you using this language in their church. And he says, he turns around and mutters under his breath, "I was just talking about bat poop."
Oh my
And
God.
the third time he said it, everyone standing there just stopped. And we all looked at each other, and it felt like the temperature dropped about 10 degrees. And you could
Wow.
feel the atmosphere just suddenly changed. And what had been a somewhat welcoming place now felt very unwelcome.
Ooh.
So I looked up and I said, guys, I think we need to go. And they all agreed. So we began to skedaddle out of the church. But as we're about to pass through the front door, my friend from Arkansas looks up and sees the rope that rings the bell hanging there in the tower, and he says, "I gotta ring the bell." So he
Oh my
reaches up and
goodness.
he rings this church bell, several times in this quiet Appalachian Valley. And,
Oh no.
I imagine if something were not already awake, ringing the
Oh
bell
no.
probably
Yeah.
woke everything up.
Oh yeah.
So we hurried back to the car, and once we reached the car, somebody turned around and said, "Oh my God, look." We all turn around, and now remember, I said that you couldn't see the church when we
Right.
first drove up.
Right.
We could see the church, and it
Oh my.
appeared that there was something inside glowing.
Oh wow.
There was just this kind of very subtle glow coming out of the windows. And at that point, we hurriedly got in the car and sped away.
Nope.
Um,
Nope.
But I have
Time to go.
since read multiple stories about this church, and
Oh.
people have had all types of experiences there. And I want to say it was 2016 or 2017, someone was actually murdered in the church.
Oh no.
Wow.
And so I can imagine it's probably not a very friendly place to go at
Yeah.
night now.
Right.
But at that point, it was that was one of my first big experiences in Cherokee, and I absolutely loved it, and I will never forget just that feeling where suddenly, in the blink of an eye, the atmosphere suddenly changed,
Yeah.
and it
Wow.
suddenly felt very unwelcome.
Wow.
Goodness.
So
Sounds like your
awesome.
friend's a card.
Well, and we did the season 1 basically a blooper reel. Guess what's going on in the season 5?
Yay.
That little clip, Lewis. You're going on the season 5 reel.
Well, like he seemed to break like every rule
Yeah.
of investigating an area,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
when you're kind of like not breaking and entering, but like
Yeah.
not going during daylight hours where anybody else knows.
Right.
One, you're quiet. You don't ring
Yes. bells,
bells, make loud noises, or anything
Yeah.
like that. And two, you don't
Or-
provoke.
Yeah.
You
or
try to be
disrespect.
respectful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the
Amateurs.
thing.
Yes.
Well,
I
remember
mean,
go ahead.
I think he was just kind of going along for the ride.
Right.
And I mean, I was the only person in this group who seriously was going for the ghosts.
True.
Yeah.
And I was
he
trying
got
to
him.
do everything right, but that guy was he was a mess.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And we have bloopers for the season 5 blooper reel.
Mhm.
Not bloopers, but fun. That's going to be hilarious to watch that on there, and then we'll all stop and laugh at Lewis, because that was the fun part about doing the season 1 was laughing at Dagny, and Andrea.
I was on
With
there.
the day in the life of some guy.
I'm telling you, I listened to that again, and I went back and re-listened to it. He is going to the men's room. I'm sorry, he is. He's not pouring a drink.
Okay, that was from our Phantom phone call show with all those weird voicemails and phone calls I would get and recorded.
Mhm.
All right, we're gonna talk about I've got a few quick stories on some mosque, and then Lewis will get you got some more stories.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay. Let's go over the mosque stories. I got 3 real quick ones here, so we can each take one if you want. I'll start with these Reddit user Excalibur, I guess how you say it, Xaliber. He said, back in high school, I was quite active in the school's religious activities, so I often spent several nights at the school, and that's what they call their mosque a lot of times, is schools, with my friends and mentors. During times like those, I often heard stories about the presence of a ghost, or maybe more accurately, jinns. Now, we've never really talked about jinns. It's a Middle Eastern belief of it's where we get the word genie. I'm sure anybody that's watching this show has heard all this before, so I don't need to explain to you what a jinn is. But anyway, around our school's mosque in the night, It is said that sometimes when you're doing shalat alone, someone would suddenly pat your shoulder as if there's someone going shalat together with you, while actually there's no one there. There's also stories of people who fell asleep in the mosque. Now get this, and would find themselves awake outside the mosque in the dumpster the next morning. Whoa. And also some blurry figures reciting the Quran late at night. Isn't that crazy? I mean, the blurry fixtures, but you fall asleep in the mosque and you wake up the next morning in the dumpster outside.
Point taken. Time
Yeah.
to find a new mosque,
Well, not necessarily find a new mosque, but don't fall asleep in the
Don't
mosque.
fall asleep. Yes.
All right. Who wants the next one?
That's short. I'll take it.
Okay.
So one time I was spending the night at the mosque, and one of the guys went up to the first floor, and as he approached the door, he heard someone reciting the Quran. When he opened the door, nobody was in the room, and the recitation, what did I know? I pronounced that wrong. Anyways, it stopped, and it really freaked him out for the next 2 nights. So he walked in there because he heard
He heard
somebody reading the
recite.
Quran. And
Yeah.
he opened up the door and it wasn't there.
Wow.
That would
Well, see,
bother me.
that's
would
one
bother me.
thing. Yeah, that's one thing I learned about the Muslim faith, Islam, is that they do have a spiritual side. Now, Christians do too, but some, you've got your extremes like the Catholic Church on one end, and then your Pentecostals on the other end, and you've got every stripe in between, you know. But the Muslims believe the same way, from what I've been told. They have that same kind of thing where you have your extremists out there that believe in all this spiritual activity, and then you got your conservatives that don't. And so
Listen, if I was at church and I was just, minding my own business and I heard somebody, praying or reciting scripture, and I was like, oh, who's here? And I went to go check it out. And I know I heard him or her.
yeah.
And I opened the door and there is nobody there.
It's
I'd
time to
probably
go.
home.
I had some friends. Another time I was up working in Cherokee, who decided to go down to the theater late one night, and they were just kind of hanging out there, but they started having all of this activity going on, and the
Wow.
theater, of course, was known to be haunted. But one of them, who was especially religious, heard what they described as a demonic voice reciting scripture. And
Wow.
he could actually give it the chapter and the verse, of where the scripture came from.
Wow.
And he came back and he was rather upset after
Yeah.
after hearing that.
Well, like Lynn, I think commented on the last show, even the devil goes to church.
Yes.
So which that's kind of a little tease for Andrea's video, but we'll get into that later. I've never had any paranormal type activity. I've never experienced any kind of paranormal activity in the church. There were some not questionable things, but things that were, like what happened, what just happened, that was kind of weird. But I do remember the rare times I would have to be at church at night and just get an uneasy feeling in the dark in the sanctuary. Just walking in, you're like, I don't know why, because it's supposed to be a holy place, but maybe it was the location. Lewis, read us that next mosque story.
Okay, this is regarding the Jamili Kamali Mosque in New Delhi, India. Generally, many people have reported that they have experienced white shadows, sightings of lights. They have heard the growling of animals. They have seen apparitions, and they have felt an unpleasant feeling, or the feeling that someone is standing next to you.
Wow.
Many people also have claimed that they have felt a slap from
Hmm.
an invisible force.
Wow.
Sometimes it appears as if someone is going behind a pillar and there is no one there. And many people have heard loud voices laughing.
Wow.
That the thing about the slap reminds me of a story from um, the Bourbon Orleans Hotel in New Orleans. And this hotel was originally, or well, was for many years, a convent.
Hmm.
And when they were working to renovate the building into a hotel, I think that was sometime in the 1960s, there was a worker working on one of the staircases. He was hammering in a nail and he hit his thumb with the hammer
Oh.
and let out an expletive, and suddenly something slapped him across the face.
Oh my gosh.
And, of course, you could expect that it was probably some ghostly nun who
None.
didn't approve of his language.
Well, remember Christine Rogers talked about seeing the ghost nun way back in one of our first
Oh
shows.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
That's probably what it was. Probably what it was. Now, one thing that stood out to me in that was the white shadows. I've never heard of that. Have y'all ever heard of white
So
shadows?
would it be are they talking about like a dim light movement or maybe like a smoke?
I
It's a
don't
very like
know.
I'm trying to think how something can cast a shadow that would be
That would be white.
noticeable and not dark,
Yeah.
so that is
But
definitely
well,
like
I
maybe
mean,
it was like
because
a movement.
I don't know, because they talk about seeing lights and they talk about apparitions, seeing somebody
Yeah.
go behind a pillar, but then this white shadows is separate. I'd like to know more about that, to see what they say about white shadows. I've
That's
never,
something to research on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Any listeners
Well,
know, chime in.
yes, please. Listeners, watchers, whatever. Yeah, well, that's another thing. If we're on these platforms that just listen, we can't really call them watchers anymore, can we?
Fans.
Well, yeah, we'll see. Lewis, give us a couple more stories before we go to Andrea's amazing video.
Okay. There was a story that I had a lady tell me once on my ghost tour. And this lady, before the tour even started, she tells me, "Well, I need to let you know I'm an independent Baptist. I don't believe in any of this." But
Okay.
throughout the tour, she told me all of these ghost stories of things that had happened to her. And she also told me these stories that happened in her church.
Wow.
Whoa.
And one of those stories was just, it's remarkable just for the image that she gave me. But she was in a meeting in the sanctuary one evening, and she's sitting there in the pews with all of these other people. And someone asked if she would go up to the pulpit and grab the Bible off of the pulpit. So she walks up to the pulpit, she grabs the Bible, and as she is turning around to go back into the sanctuary, she hears these multiple loud thumps that all kind of happened at once. And she turns around and looks, and there were all of these microphones that had been sitting on mic stands throughout the altar area. And all of a sudden, those mics had all dropped out of their holders all at
Wow.
once.
Whoa.
And so, as soon as she realized what happened, she turns around and everyone had fled the sanctuary. So she
Thanks,
hurried
guys.
off. She hurried off after them, and so I guess in this case, the ghost had the final mic drop.
I was waiting
Nice.
for it. I was waiting for
But
it.
I mean, just the fact that the spirits would make themselves known in such a manner, and especially to a whole sanctuary full of Independence Baptists who are not supposed to believe in any of this stuff.
No. So that's one of the reasons why we do what we do. Is there's so many people are like, oh no in the church faith, and they're like, no, and they're like, oh, do you got a second? I need to talk to you about some things. And everybody's got a good story.
Well, I mean, I started to add something to the outline last week, and I didn't, and I'm kind of regretting it now. But it was an article talking about the Jewish faith and the paranormal, basically, and they brought up that verse of scripture about not consulting with spirits in the Old Testament. And they made a point that just kind of floored me, that, this command or whatever was being made with, first off, the assumption was that you could consult with spirits. That's in the Bible. If it's saying don't consult with spirits, the antithesis of that is it's an ability that's out there. It can be done. And there, that was saying, just warning against that. And then, of course, the time when Solomon consulted the ghost of the witch in the Bible.
The witch of Endor. Yeah. It was Samuel. She brought Samuel back from the dead.
That's right.
Yeah.
Brought Samuel. Yeah, he went to see the witch in disguise. And she had a couple of those little furry short guys with her, too. Bad joke. Sorry. That was a bad dad joke. But to get kind of quasi-serious again, in other words, it's in the scripture that there's validity there, that this is something that even the Bible recognizes as real. But I was raised that the only spirit was the Holy Spirit. But then what do you do with angels? What do you do with demons? And that's those are out there, and we expect them. And I don't. A lot of times my brain goes in all these different directions, and I don't really share it until I get on the show, and then I think about it. It's like, oh, I was thinking about this the other day. That what if ghosts are not really ghosts? Not I'm not saying not ghosts, but not spirits of dead humans. What if they're another dimension? What if they're another? What if it's a time slip that we've talked about on the show before? There's all kind of crazy stuff. Now, we're over an hour, and we do this quite often because we enjoy. I enjoy hanging with you guys and telling strange stories. I love hearing you tell. I enjoy hearing you tell strange stories, and it's always just a blast being on here. And if I'm glad we're just like open-ended, because if we were doing a 30-minute show, we would have run out of fun. I think we would have missed the poop story. So
that story of the night so far.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Hands down.
That's great.
What was that? When I was in Central America, when somebody would just floor everybody with some kind of slight or joke or whatever, the thing was to go up to them and bow before them and say, maestro. That was the big thing there. But something I don't keep up with things like this, but in the last couple of months, what they're calling a revival is hit at Asbury Seminary, and my father actually attended there, and for a time, I don't remember if he got a degree there or not. He got a couple. But something's been happening that they call a revival. And Andrea, tell us how you came across this video and what you discovered, and then we're going to watch the video.
So I had been keeping up on the news about this revival because honestly, I thought it was pretty amazing and it was catching on in other universities and other cities, and it's going worldwide. There's revivals that are currently going on still, even though the Asbury one I think has officially ceased. But I had caught word that during the revival, somebody had an episode, a seizure or something. And I just kind of went, I wonder. So I went and looked up the video and I watched. And so for anybody that's watching and listening that they don't know, I don't hear that well. So I wear hearing aids, and forever I had pop bottle lenses until I had LASIK in 2014. It was like being touched by Jesus because I can see. So I was great. But because of that, and because I kind of had these disabilities, if something moves, I'll see it. So I went and intentionally, like really narrowed in. I zoomed in and watched what happened. And so you kind of see in the pews her kind of starting to move, and clearly she's having an episode of some sort. And they move her out into the aisle and lay her down like you do with any medical emergency. But then you hear a woman start, I guess the word would be exorcising. She was condemning the spirits, and she was like, in the name of Jesus, get out of her. And she kept saying it over and over and over and over. And then this girl lets out this blood curdling scream. And within just a few seconds along the pew, you see along the aisle, you see a dark shadow move out from where she was into around the front of the stage. So I posted this video. I showed the team immediately. I was like, check this out.
Yeah.
And then, because I wasn't sure, like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? I wanted opinions, can this be debunked? Because sometimes there's always a reasonable explanation. So I posted it's on our Grave Hunter Society Instagram, Facebook page, and TikTok. And the TikTok one it just blew up. I mean, it has had over 65,000 views on it.
Wow.
And over 1,000 comments on it. So people really stated their opinions. Some were just absolutely dead set. That is exactly, I had affliction, and it went exactly like that for me. Another group of people said, oh no, that's somebody's coat or something like that. And then other people were like, that girl had a seizure and this is terrible. And I was starting to feel really bad. So I was like, oh heavens, if that's what happened. And then the girl made her statement. And her statement is that she no longer has these issues because she was afflicted.
Wow.
And that, so when somebody is in the Christian faith, if somebody is filled with the Holy Spirit, then they cannot be filled with a dark spirit. So they are not going to be possessed, but they can be oppressed or afflicted. And so when you are afflicted or oppressed, you have what's called a deliverance done rather than an exorcism. So I put exorcism down because I knew not everybody was going to know the difference, and I was schooled regularly. And I appreciated it because that meant people were watching and people cared, and I know the difference. But she had a deliverance, and I still can't get over this video. It just really blows my mind. And if you want to show it,
yeah,
it was.
I'll unmute your mic when I play it. So if you want to say anything. Wow. I was trying to unmute your mic,
Wow.
unmute your mic, but
It's fine.
you
I
had to
realized
do it.
as I was talking, I was like, wait a second. So
And somebody commented just as we started playing the video. Very well explained, Andrea.
thank you. I am completely open to opinions on it. It's not set in stone, but it is something that I thought, because she admits that that is what she had happened, and her parents have stood by her on that. I think it would be really awesome to have visual representation of that, like something that people can see and they're like, wow, that really did happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, even I've got goosebumps. Her scream every time I hear it, bless her
Wow.
heart. It just sounded so awful, to experience that. But that's the video. That was the big catch. And let me tell you, I have like 5 videos on our TikTok. They all have like 8 likes. Not that one.
Wow. I told Andrea, I said, I can't say it was a demon. I can't say it was an exorcism, but whatever that was, and forgive me here, wanted to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
It was leaving.
Yep.
He said it was time to go. So let us know what you think about that video and the stories that we shared tonight. Let us know what how you feel about the poop story. Best story of the night.
It was great. That was a really good story.
I think Lewis, I think you caught us off guard. I mean, Lewis, let me say this about Lewis. He is cultured and refined. And I appreciate that about him. He laughs and cuts up with us. But tonight, Lewis, you've been in rare form. I love it. All of your stories have been just that. And I don't know. There's just been that humor aspect of it that was awesome. Well, guys, this was awesome. I am so glad that you got to be back with us, Andrew. We've missed you.
Missed you guys. I really have.
Yes.
Well, thank you. And Lewis, it's always a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, I want to close with something special. In 2 days, everyone turns Irish. And Mobile has a well, let's just say that Mobile is famous for a certain Irish aspect.
Crowds are coming by the dozens to get an up-close view at what some say is a piece of Irish folklore.
A leprechaun.
I want to know what to go like. I want to go. Give me the go. Leprechaun could be a crackhead who got hold to the wrong stuff. I want to know what to go like. I want to go. Give me the go. I want to run a backhoe and uproot that tree. I want to go. It look like a leprechaun to me. Look up in the tree. It look like a leprechaun to me. Could be a crackhead. Whoa, see the leprechaun say yeah. Say yeah. Say yeah. Whoa, see the leprechaun say yeah. Could be a crackhead. I want to know where to go. Say yeah. I want to go. Give me the go.
If you wanna go, better learn how to catch me. If you wanna catch me, better learn how to sketch me.
This was all spells right here. Special leprechaun flute passed down from thousands of years ago. From my great-great-grandfather, who was Irish, I just can't help all.
I want to know where to go like. I want to go. Give me the go. Leprechaun could be a crackhead who got hold to the wrong stuff. I want to know where to go like. I want to go. Give me the go. I want to run a backhoe and uproot that tree. I want to go.
You can songify yourself for free on the Songify app, just like this.
So that
The sketch.
the original video from the newscast was considered the very first YouTube video to go viral. So I refuse. I mean, with the original actual clips, now, these guys, put the music to it and had fun with it, but the original video was considered the first to go viral. And so I refuse to play that video on our Leprechaun show last year because Elizabeth was with us, and I wanted to be respectful to the subject and everything. But tonight, especially the way things went with the poop story, I figured, why not? Let's just close it. Where the gold at? Where the gold at? Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please be safe on your strange journeys out there. We will see you next time. Y'all have a good night. Bye-bye.
See ya.